What does it mean to endure? Across cultures and throughout history, endurance has been at the center of rituals and ceremonies. Fasting, walking on hot coals, pilgrimages, and acts of penance. These practices test the boundaries of body and mind, aiming to transcend ordinary experience and reach deeper truth. In the late 20th century, a new form of artistic expression emerged that placed endurance at its core. Known as endurance art or endurance performance, this genre challenges the traditional boundaries of art by making the artist's body and willpower the central medium. These works are often demanding, sometimes dangerous, and almost always provocative. They ask us, what can be learned, revealed, or transformed by pushing the limits of physical and psychological endurance? Human history is rich with practices that require endurance. Ramadan and Lent, vision quests, firewalking in Bali, the Sundance of the Plains Nations, and the marathons of ancient Greece. These acts are not just about suffering. They are about transformation, purification, and communal meaning. Endurance becomes a bridge between the individual and the universal, the physical and the spiritual. Emerging from the rebellious spirit of conceptual and body art, endurance artists rejected the idea of art as a commodity. The artwork was not an object to be bought or sold, but an experience to be witnessed. Early pioneers used their bodies to confront social norms and audience expectations. In her seminal 1964 work, Cut Piece, Yoko Ono sat passively while inviting the audience to cut away her clothing, an act of quiet endurance that tested the boundary between viewer and victim. Artists like Carolee Schneemann and Vito Acconci performed physically and psychologically demanding acts, such as Acconci's notorious seedbed that challenged taboos and implicated the audience in intensely private moments. Other artists pushed their physical limits to an extreme. Chris Burden undertook a series of shocking performances, having himself shot in the arm for his piece Shoot, and locking himself in a small locker for 5 days in 5-Day Locker Piece. These works explored vulnerability, risk, and the limits of control. The artist's action and his survival was the art. This ritualistic approach was also seen in the work of Joseph Beuys, who lived with a wild coyote for 3 days in I Like America and America Likes Me, and Anna Mendieta, whose Silhouette series involved imprinting her body onto the raw landscape, enduring the elements to create ephemeral traces of her existence. While these artists tested the limits of pain and risk, others made time itself their primary medium. No artist has explored this more profoundly than Dershing Shea. For his one-year performances, Shea subjected himself to monumental feats of discipline. He spent a year locked in a cage, a year punching a time clock every hour on the hour, and a year tied by a rope to fellow artist Linda Montano. His work wasn't about a single dramatic moment, but the relentless, cumulative weight of time on a human life. This legacy of long-durational performance is carried on most famously by Marina Abramovic, often called the grandmother of performance art. In her early Rhythm Zero, she stood immobile for 6 hours, allowing the public to use any of 72 objects on her, testing the limits of human behavior. Decades later, in her work The Artist is Present, she sat silently in a museum for over 700 hours, engaging in a shared silent gaze with thousands of strangers, proving that stillness itself can be an act of profound endurance. Around the world, artists have used endurance to address powerful political and social realities. Chinese artists like John Wan, who sat naked in a filthy public toilet covered in honey to attract flies in his work 12 Square Meters, and He-Young Chang, who had a meter-long incision carved into his body for 1 meter democracy, used their personal suffering to comment on the individual's place within a vast and sometimes oppressive society. Contemporary artists continue to push these boundaries. Cassile's Becoming an Image involves pummeling a 2,000-pound block of clay in total darkness until reaching complete exhaustion, an act of violent transformation. Artists like Joan Jonas, Chelsea Kuhn, and others have all used repetitive, exhausting actions to explore the body's physical and psychological thresholds. So why do they do it? Endurance art is more than just shock value. It is a raw, unflinching search for authenticity in a world saturated with artificial images. By pushing the body to its breaking point, these artists explore the nature of time, the fragility of the self, and the deep, often uncomfortable, relationship between the one who acts and the one who watches. It forces us to ask, where does art truly exist? Is it in the object or in the unshakable memory of a shared human experience?